This has been a weird week in Cavs basketball, right? Donovan Mitchell's been out for a while with the groin injury, comes back finally, looks to re-injure it on the last second of that game. But in between then, you had one of your worst performances of the year, and then the next night versus the Bucks, Evan Mobley puts up 38 points. When we said this was a roller coaster ride of a season, it is not disappointing on that. This has been a roller coaster ride, Ab. How are you doing so far on the ride?
You know, it's hard because it is such high highs and such low lows. Like that Warriors loss, probably the worst game of the season. And I kind of had this weird inkling going into it when they announced that like Steph, Draymond, Clay, like no one's playing. You're like, oh shoot, we're gonna do something here. Like it feels like those are the times that you get lazy. And they admitted that even after the game, the players were like, we didn't come out playing as hard as we should have. JB said some stuff like that. So that was definitely a tough loss to watch, but to see them be able to bounce back against the Bucks, especially with Mobley's 38-point game, I think was really important. I was hoping they were going to kind of continue that momentum against the Knicks, and that just it didn't happen. It's not that there was like any one thing that I feel like stood out as like a specific player didn't do their job in the Knicks game. I think it was a collective thing, especially from the bench. I think against the Knicks, they had a total of 11 or 12 bench points. It was pretty rough. And that was just like 9 from Karras and 3 from Ricky. You just can't have that. Like we can't win when the bench is playing so poorly, especially with the number of minutes they're getting right now and the number of rotations JB is trying. It's frustrating to watch when they go out there, and if you put Donovan and Darius off the court for 3 minutes, everything completely falls apart. So it's been weird. The high highs of the Mobley 38 points are the best, and the lows just they suck out all the energy.
One of the consistent things with this Cavs team has been the lack of bench scoring, right? I mean, like we just look at New York, right? And New York's not like a world beater team. They're just decent. 26 to 23.
Right.
11 points from Obi Toppin. 4 points from Isaiah Hartstein. McBride, 3 points. 9 from Isaiah Quickly. They have 2 players who pretty much scored the same amount of points our entire bench did. You look at the Cavs bench, 0 points from Kevin Love in 12 minutes, 0 points from Dean Wade, 0 points from Lamar Stevens, 0 points from Jetty Osman, 3 points from Ricky Rubio, 9 points from Karis LeVert. We're playing 6 guys on the bench. We're getting 12 points from the bench. They're playing 4, and they're getting like 3 times as many points from their bench. And I think this is one of them things where it's like, how useful is it to run Dean Wade out there for 4 minutes, right? Like, how useful is it to run Lamar Stevens out there for 6 minutes? Why is Jetty Osman in the game for 3 minutes? Like,
Yeah.
you know,
Or Kevin Love, especially the amount of minutes he's still getting. I mean, that one has been a suck of all of the energy every single time.
plus or minus of negative 20.
Oof. Ricky had one of his worst games since he's been back too. I think his plus minus was I don't remember the exact number, but when I looked at it, it was like, oh, this is really bad.
Negative 26.
Yeah, it was not good.
And then Karis LeVert at negative 19. The lowest
Yeah.
plus minus was -1, and that was because Dean Wade only played 4 minutes in this game. Somehow Jetty got plus minus of -6 in three minutes.
That's such a Jetty thing to have happen where his isn't as bad for some random reason.
Yeah, that's where we got beat. I mean, like all of the plus minus for the Knicks are in their minus is all in their starting lineup. We have all pluses in our starting lineup, right? Evan
Yeah.
Mobley had a flat plus minus of 0. Isaac 18, Jared 15, Darius 20, Donovan Mitchell 12, and then you go down to New York. -10 with Julius Randle, -6 with Sims, -9 with Sims, -11 with Brunson, -10 with Quentin Grimes. And then we just could not do anything off the bench. Part of it, I think, is defensively. I don't know how it worked last year, but Kevin Love and Ricky Rubio being on the floor at the same time has been a problem
Yeah.
for this team. I saw a lineup, and correct me if I'm wrong, where I want to say Dean Wade, Kevin Love, and Rubio were on the court at the same time.
It was rough.
Yeah, and it's like, I feel bad for Evan whenever he's out there and Kevin's out there because he be tired, dog. Like he's just like sprinting everywhere. And I just the rotations, we're using way too many players.
Yeah.
We're not allowing there to be like most teams have a bench team, right? Where you roll out the bench unit, they play together all the time. Who's that for the Cavs? What's the bench rotation for the Cavs right now?
Yeah.
We don't have one.
What It's surprising too because I think JB had said going into the season that he didn't plan on using that much of the bench in games and having that deep of a team. So I think it's a little bit surprising. But the other thing he did say that I was listening to in an interview was that as we are getting all of these players back and healthy, he wants to test out some different rotations in the first half and then in the second half really try to go out and actually win the game, which I understand in theory. Like, I do think that makes sense. Like, most teams get to do this in October, but we've had so many random health issues that we haven't really gotten to do that with the full collective group that we want to use until now. So I understand that in theory, but it feels like maybe he's sometimes doing it a little bit too long. Like, there was a stretch from, I think it was I don't know if it was the end of the first quarter to the beginning of the second quarter. It was a very long time to have both Donovan and Darius on the bench, and everything was collapsing. And I get wanting to test out some lineups and see what's working. But if it's going really bad at a certain point, it's like, we gotta get the win too. Like, the East is tight, it's competitive. So you can test, but you want to get the win. And this ended up being a 2-point game. So maybe you put Darius or Donovan back in a few minutes earlier and keep things together. That result might be different.
The second thing here, right? There are two players here who stick out like sore thumbs whenever you watch the game, that are on the bench. And it continues to be these two. And these aren't the two funnest players to point out for bad things because, like, people like these two guys. But it's Kevin Love and it's Karis LeVert, right? Yeah, almost every night. And Karis will do things like, we talked about this before, where he'll put up like a decent amount of points.
Yeah.
But it's like, it's not a good game how he played. Like, he'll have a plus minus like negative like 20 or something. And it's because he's not playing well, right? Even when he puts up a good stat line, it's not good in the way that you want it because, and plus minus don't really account for like penalties. I mean, fouls that he gets. He gets some egregious fouls, the turnovers,
Bad.
just
So
bad
bad.
turnovers at horrible times. That's the one thing with this Cavs team, right? They run this lineup out here with Karis at the 3. And I hate that lineup because Evan Mobley turns the ball over a good amount. But he's Evan Mobley, so you live with it. Like, defensively, offensively, he makes up for it pretty much every night. You need him to stop having those turnovers in the future for him to be who you want him to be. But you'll live with him right now, right? Isaac Okoro, not usually out there in that lineup. That's usually who you put in. So you put in Isaac, who doesn't really touch the ball, doesn't stop the ball, and you put in a ball stopper in Karis LeVert. And not only is he a ball stopper, he's a turnover machine late in the fourth quarter. Jared Allen's fine out there, and then Darius Garland has his issues with turnovers. And, Donovan Mitchell sometimes has weird turnovers too in games, right? So we talk about like some of the weird stuff that happens in the fourth quarter. It's usually like we have turnovers, like a unreasonable amount of turnovers in the fourth quarter that lead to this. And it's like, at some point we got to, and Kevin Love's a part of this problem too, because sometimes he's out there in the fourth quarter. And I don't know. I think Kevin can fix some of his stuff if you just play him less. But the Karis LeVert stuff isn't like he's an old man. It's just what Karis LeVert does. And I just need to see less of him. Like, I don't need to see him in the fourth quarter. I really don't ever need to see him with the starting lineup ever. And I get that they feel like they get something there offensively, but now the way that they stagger Darius and Donovan when they're both healthy, you don't need a creator more than you need a spot up shooter. So he honestly does more harm than good. Even if he does put up the points, I think he takes away more opportunities to get more points, honestly.
I agree, because it's like, if you have Karis shooting, like, Donovan or Darius could have also been shooting in that situation. And then what else Karras is giving to the game is more of a negative than it is a positive. So it is kind of weird. It was more helpful, I think, when we had some at the time, like Darius was out a bunch and we needed someone else to be shooting other than just Donovan, which some nights was enough. Like sometimes Donovan can do it on its own. Sometimes you do need another guy to be out there shooting. So it was helpful then, but when you have both of them, I think you're correct. It is like, what are you adding when you are out there on the court that someone else who is better could be doing?
Now, I was talking to Cole before we recorded this video. I was doing a video with him on the main channel. And we were talking about like different wings that were on some of these Cavs teams that were like, man, we would kill for them. I was like, Jeff Green. I would legitimately kill for 2018 Jeff Green right now.
That was a good time.
Yeah. I mean, like Kyle Korver.
I was literally just going to say Korver was all time. That was so fun.
Richard Jefferson. Like I would rather have Richard Jefferson out there sometimes. Like and it's not because like Karras, and I said this on Twitter and I say this all the time. It's not that Karras LeVert is a bad player.
Right.
He's just good enough to drive you crazy. Right?
Yeah.
He can make just enough threes to make you feel like he can spot up. But he can't, right? He's Karras LeVert. You know, at the end of the day, he can't be trusted, right? That is the danger with him, right? And it's not like a situation. You know, there's two ways you could beat with this, right? There's the Dion Waiters side of the equation, and then there is what's his name? He used to be sixth man of the year like every year. He played in that. Lou Williams. Okay. So Lou Williams, there's Lou Williams side of the equation, and then there's, you know, Dion Waiters, right? Colin Sexton kind of falls in between the middle here, where he can kind of like play that role a little bit, but it dips into both territories sometimes, right? Especially when he starts shooting a lot. But then with Karras, it's like you think he should be Lou Williams, right? That's what you want him to be. But he's not as efficient. He's not as smart. He's not as tactical. He's not as careful with the basketball as Lou Williams or Jamal Crawford. So you end up in Dion Waiters territory, it drives you crazy. And I know there are people who defend Karras, and I understand why, because if you look at Karras' numbers and you look at his highlights, he looks good. Right. He looks good. But it's the small stuff that happens in games that drive you crazy, right? The Utah game, he fouls like 4 times, whatever reason at the end of that game, you know, creates like 10 points for Utah. There was a game, it was a Warriors game, right? The Cavs are on a run. He goes behind his back in a dribble drive for no reason and coughs the ball up. Like, why? And then that just gives them all the money. It looked like for a second in that game that, okay, these guys aren't used to being out here. The Cavs turn the switch on. They're putting the pressure on them. They don't have the championship guys like Curry who's just going to randomly make a three. But he dribbles that ball away. That ball gets rolled over to whoever shot that three. Okay? In the four, I cannot remember his name. But whomever that was shot that three from like the logo. And it just went in. It was like, it's over. Right? You know, it's stuff like that continues to plague the team, and it really roots with two people at this point. It's Karras and it's Kevin, where most of this stuff comes in at. And Kevin's three-point shooting hasn't been there. He's at the worst splits of his career, worst from the field, worst from three-point. He's under 10 points for the first time in his life. It's been a bad, like this has been as bad of a year for him as 2019 was statistically.
Yeah.
So,
well, and I don't think we expected that from him, because last year he was like a 6th man of the year candidate for like the majority. Like he had a great year last year. So I think going into the season, I just didn't expect it to be this significant of a drop off. Like I know he's getting older, and sometimes that just happens as players get older. I just felt like after he bounced back in such a great way last year that we were going to be able to get a little bit better out of him.
I think it's because he takes all those charges and he's hurt. Like, I think he's playing too physical, honestly, for his age, right? I don't think he needs to take all those charges. I know why he does it. He likes doing it, and like it's his thing now, and we get excited about it. But if he's gonna play that way, he doesn't need to play every day.
Yeah.
Right? Or he doesn't need to play that way. If that's how he feels like he gets energy to go, okay, cool. You just don't need to play every day, because this version of him we're getting is not playable right now. Like,
No.
it's hard to justify minutes for him, especially when Dean Wade started the year off so well. And it's like,
Yeah.
yeah, like right now we're at a point where it's like Kevin got 12, Dean got 4. I'd rather see Dean Wade get 16. You know,
Yeah.
I think also Isaac's been playing better, which is inserted him back to the starting lineup.
Hmm.
I I know why he's in there because he plays better when he starts. But I just don't think it makes sense with him out there
I know.
when Donovan Mitchell's out there. Like, it doesn't make much sense for him to be out there, and it keeps like becoming because they could just shoot over him from three. Like, that's part of, you wanted to talk about like why the 3-point defense was bad. Like, what are you seeing as the issues there?
Yeah, well, it's been weird because I feel like it's been streaky. Like, I think it feels worse when we watch a game where it looks really bad. Something that was interesting that Tony Pesta, who I don't know if you follow him on Twitter, but he always posts some really great stats out there. He posted one today that the Cavs are allowing the third fewest wide open threes, but opponents are shooting the fifth highest 3-point percentage against the Cavs. So we're not like allowing this incredibly high rate of open threes as it feels like. I think everyone collectively watching it thinks like, oh man, we're just like leaving everyone open. That's not happening, but other teams are shooting really well against us. So there has to be some air happening between those two things. I don't know if it's we're allowing their best 3-point shooters to take shots. I'm sure like a tiny percentage of it is luck, which I know is like not something you can scientifically correlate and give a statistic to. But of course, there is some luck in having a night where the other team is shooting really well. I don't know what else is going wrong in there for teams to be shooting that high of a percentage against us when we're not giving them those opportunities.
I think the same thing happened last year too when Jared Allen went out, right? That last stretch of the season, it was the same exact thing where I think like Kyle Kuzma had like a game where he made like 8 threes or something ridiculous like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I think that the problem is the lack of length on the perimeter, right?
Yeah.
It's a little bit better with Donovan out there because Donovan does have some length, but he's not necessarily tall. He's tall in real life. He's 6'3", but like he's
In
not
NBA standards.
yeah, he's not like a tall point guard, right? And well, not a point guard, but a two guard. And,
Right.
and you know, Darius is very undersized, right? Like and for the NBA,
Yep.
he's undersized. And then you put in Isaac Okoro, who, you know, 6'5" is not undersized in any other lane, any world in the NBA, but he's undersized there at 6'5", right? And he's not especially long. And the lack of length, I think, is hurting you when it comes to 3-point shooting because that's what it really matters, right?
Yeah.
If you look at like some of the best 3-point defending teams in NBA history, ironically, it was the one where Kyrie had like 10 threes against them. I think it was the Atlanta Hawks team. Kyrie like broke the 3-point record against them. It's one of the most impressive things, but they were like the best 3-point defensive team there, and they had nothing but length, right? Nicholas Batum, all these guys like Al Horford, length across the board. And that really helps when it comes to closing out on 3-point shots because you can change the arc of a shot with length.
Right.
We don't have anybody on the perimeter that changes the arc of a shot, right? Donovan can effectively get in your face and like defend you, but he can't change the arc of your shot. He's not that long. We know Darius is not doing that. And Isaac Okoro is not long enough to do that to somebody who is 6'8". And that's just what that position has evolved to at 3-4, which is, you know, they're going to be shooting and they're going to be 6'8", 6'10".
Right.
So I would love to know some of the splits when we have like longer lineups. And I would love to see JB trot out some longer lineups out there to see maybe if that's something that can stop the problem, right? Because if you put Jared out there, you put Evan out there, you put, let's say, Lamar Stevens out there, and then maybe at the 2 you run Donovan, and at the 1 instead of it being Darius you run Ricky in some of these situations, I think you will see some of those 3-point issues kind of go away because then you have good length at every position because Ricky, I believe, has like a 6'9" wingspan to go with that. So maybe try out some more length out there. I think that would be something that helps you with the 3 because that seems to be what correlates with 3-point defense.
Right.
Because we don't bother anybody on the perimeter. I think we're not leaving guys open, but we're not really bothering them And in the
Right.
NBA, if you're not bothering people, they're open. So I think
For
that's
sure.
part of the problem.
Right. Or even if you are bothering them, you're not bothering them in the way that is super effective if we had the length, like you're saying. And it's
Mm-hmm.
frustrating too, because our defense in the paint is so good, like best of the best in the league. It's just teams continue to kill us from three. And it's a numbers game. It's hard to compete if they're making all those shots. So yeah, I think that's an interesting point. And maybe, if there were trades to be made in the future, that's something I think that needs to be considered, is considering that length, because it is such a detriment right now.
Yeah, especially defensively. Like if we're looking at the starting lineup, that's where you really need it. Like a nice long three. Again, Jeff Green from 2018 would
Yeah.
just fit perfectly on
Who's
this
pretty
roster.
long is LeBron James. I don't know, just throwing that one out there. But it's an idea. I don't
Shameless,
know.
shameless LeBron James plug right there. Shameless.
I'm just gonna keep hoping it happens until maybe someday it does.
Yeah. But it's like you need one of, like, I don't know who's going to be available, or like I don't know what's going on with Jay Crowder anymore. Like, is he still holding out
I
or
know.
not? But it's like you really do need that length there at that forward position, because it hurts you a lot, and especially like when Jared Allen's not in there, then we have to move Mobley over, and like sometimes we're starting Rolo out there, and then we like putting Rolo on the court.
Oh
Like
yeah.
I think it's a no go at this point. Like with that second unit, you can't put Rolo out there
No.
anymore and then have Kevin Love and Ricky Rubio out there. Like this is that's not working,
No.
right?
It's ugly basketball. Ugly basketball.
And it's also one of those interesting things, right? Because we talk about this defense being really good. I would love to know our numbers for our second unit defense, because I feel like we might be one of the worst second unit defenses in the NBA. Because I think like this bench has to get figured out, right? And I think there's enough pieces there on the roster to get it figured out, right? I'm not saying that this is, you can figure it out in the season. You can figure it out with some trades. I think the trade, honestly, is to fix the starting lineup. Once you fix that, I think, okay, let's talk about who we want to actually get run on the bench, right? Ricky Rubio, absolutely.
Yeah.
After that, maybe Lamar Stevens.
Yeah, I think for some length, we can still give him some minutes.
But like after Ricky Rubio and like Kevin Love's supposed to be one of those guys where like, hey, this is going to be Kevin Love. Like the idea was it's going to be Kevin Love, Karis LeVert, Ricky Rubio, and then we'll find a guy, right? That maybe it's Dean Wade, maybe it's Lamar
Chetty,
Stevens,
maybe
Jetty. It depends there. But that's going to be the core 8, right? The starting lineup plus those 3. Karis has been very inconsistent in ways that are really hurting your ability to win basketball games. Kevin Love's been non-existent. And Ricky Rubio just got back from injury.
Right. And then we're almost asking too much of some of those other guys in terms of what you laid out there, the expectation going into the season of how people were going to be used. Then we're like, hey, can you come out? Lamar Stevens, can you come out here and give us, 30 minutes tonight? And it's like, this wasn't supposed to be how it was going to go for some of those guys.
Yeah. So we're in this weird spot to where, we did trade some bench depth, but I don't think, like, look, Larry Marketing, God bless him, but like I don't think he was doing what he's doing in Utah right now in Cleveland if we never traded for Donovan Mitchell. So even then, even though we still had those 3-point issues with him on we just might have horrible luck. Like, I know, to be honest,
right? Because he's got length. He's
7 foot. He's 7, and he was playing the 3, and we still were getting ran on. But I mean, we were smaller at 2 guard though, so but we were throwing Isaac out there sometimes. So it was. I don't know what's going on with the 3-point. Like, I would love to think it's length, because length is logical, but like this has been going on for quite a while here, right?
I hate to attest it to like, oh, luck, I know there has to be more than that, but it does feel like at a certain point you're like, I don't know what I'm seeing that is causing this to happen.
Yeah, but the issue too with the bench is like, well, if you're JB, Who do you like? Who
I
do you feel
know.
comfortable leaning on? Like that's the problem, right? So like
Yes.
in the playoffs, you're gonna have two starters out there, three bench players in your second unit, right? You're probably gonna have two configurations of that, and I'm thinking what you're gonna at least want to have Donovan or Darius in one of those second units. So one unit gets Donovan, one unit gets Darius, right? So
Hmm.
there's one other spot for a starter to be. That's usually gonna be either Evan or Jarrett, right? Because you can't rest them at the same time. You got to get their
Right.
rest stacked. So Donovan and probably Jared Allen, you would probably want to throw out there together, and then you're probably going to put Darius out there with Evan. I think that's usually how that thing goes, right?
So
But who are the other three in these rotate like that? That's the issue, right? So
I know.
if you have Evan out there, you can live with Kevin Love, but the offensive side of the ball has not been existent for him. So it's like, why? You know
Right.
what I mean?
Well, and then like you said, who else? Like I know people are mad at some of like JB's rotations, but it's like there aren't other options. Like you need to have somebody be able to step up, and it's getting hard because if no one does, like you got to rest your starters at some point. Like you have to have bench players who can step up. So
Yeah.
I don't know. Either guys are just going to have to start hitting shots more. Kevin Love's going to have to go back, 6 years in time and start shooting like that again. I don't know what the solution is, but
Yeah, maybe
someone's going to have to do it.
he's due. Like I don't know, but
Yeah.
like when Donovan's out there, okay, you could run Ricky Rubio out there, and then you have Jared Allen out there. Okay, so that's a decent second unit with like those
Mhm.
three in there. But then maybe you got Jared out there, so you're not going to have as many offensive options. But you're gonna
Mhm.
have Donovan, so it's kind of fine. Ricky's gonna be fine out there, and
Right.
then maybe you can roll out Lamar Stevens at the 4 and then Isaac at the 3 if Isaac's not starting, but then if both of them are starting, like you see how there's
I know.
no like maybe you could put maybe you put Lamar Stevens at the 4 and then put Dean Wade at the 3, but that's
Yeah.
really a preseason lineup. You don't want to be going into the playoffs like that.
Yeah.
But again, who are the like if we can't
know.
rely on Kevin Love and if we can't rely on Karis LeVert, who are the three guys that are coming off the bench in the playoffs?
I know. It's not a great place to be because yeah, it's like a lot of those guys have had moments and flashes of time and extended amounts of time where they do play well. So I don't necessarily think that we don't have good pieces on this team. I don't know if it's just everyone's going through a bad streak at the same time or what needs to be corrected. If it's an effort thing, if it's just an energy thing. But it's tough because you have to have good bench options. Like you listed off in the Knicks game, that really helped them get the win on the number of bench guys that they had that were able to be a positive impact on their team. So we're going to have to find it.
Yeah, they got to find out something with this bench. They really got to figure it out. And I can see them trying. You can literally see them trying to figure it out. I mean,
for sure.
When you throw Jetty Osman out there for 3 minutes,
Yeah.
I don't know what you found out in that 3 minutes, but it must have been something. Like, I don't know how he just
Poor
plays.
JB. Honestly, I feel bad for JB right now. This is a hard job. We can't come up with anything. I don't know what he's going to do.
Yeah, it's not a lot of great. Like the idea was Kevin Rubio. And then Karis and Isaac takes the 3 spot, right?
Yeah.
That was the ideal. And the thing I think that's most troubling isn't Isaac's play. Isaac's been fine.
Yeah.
It's just that it's the problems that he's running into are things that he can't change, right?
Yeah.
Like that's the biggest problem for Isaac right now is, we talked about him in potential terms so much that we're like, oh, he just gets this right, this guy, right? That we have ignored that he is not the tallest 3 in the NBA.
Yeah.
And that's really where he's running up against problems.
Right.
Is his size.
And if you put Isaac in the NBA 10 years ago, he's like a very normal size 3. But with the present day, the way it feels like everyone gets an inch taller every year, like collectively each draft class. And it's gotten to the point where, yeah, he is pretty undersized for that position.
Yeah, you look at Luka, you look at Jimmy Butler, you look at Giannis, who plays the 3 a lot in Milwaukee, and then if it's not Giannis, guess what? It's Chris Middleton.
Yeah,
know, and then it's Bobby Portis coming off the bench playing the same kind of area. So there's a lot of size. Like what Tobias Harris plays the 3 for the 76ers at 6'10".
Yeah,
you're giving up 5 inches. Like I mean, James Harden. He's going to be somebody that you're going to have to deal with if you're Isaac Okoro. 6'9", 6 like he's a big dude too, heavy, right?
crazy.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so he's just outsized. Like this is like it's always felt like small forward was more of like a big guard. Now it's just a athletic forward. Like
Yeah.
it's what it
Right.
is now, right?
Right.
Like the size is the same, and it's not changing because you got Victor Wembanyama coming in the league, who's
I
probably
know.
going to play 1 or 2
He's can be a
at
point guard.
7'4". Like so this you're not this the league is not scrunching down anytime soon, and that's
Yeah.
really the problem. And then when he's out there on the wing, what the problem is for him especially is that he gets switched on to power forwards a lot, and like Julius Randle can get whatever he wants against him because he's bigger than him, taller than him, and stronger than him. Yeah,
he was getting everything.
And then like when he gets ran out to the perimeter, he could just shoot over him, right?
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's something that we haven't been like thinking about, and it's not like it's Isaac's fault. It's just how he was born. It's that problem that he's running into. It's like didn't account for that, right? We accounted for Isaac not being good.
Yeah.
We accounted for him not being able to play. Okay.
Yeah. For his
we didn't
limitations.
account for his limitations to be this, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Well, and as we kind of like bring it all together, it's tough too with the Eastern Conference right now on how much each game matters. So when we have these little things happening, that's one game that kind of scrunches the East a lot closer. And the Heat are getting closer and closer to us. The Knicks are getting closer to us. Even the Hawks, who aren't very good at all, are getting closer to us. And it's tough because that's just the conference we're dealt right now. Like if we were in the West, we would be third in the West right now, which is always frustrating when you look at I'm always comparing the two conferences. I'm like, oh, where would we be? And it's always like third or, really close to second. And it's frustrating, but it's tight up there. And we have, important games coming up, especially as we get closer to the All-Star break. You want to be going on a run and playing some good basketball now. So we're going to need to see that happen.
Yeah, you bring up the standings in the East, right? Right now, it's Boston far in the way, 35-14. Oh my God, they're good.
Crazy.
They're very good.
They weren't even. Do you remember the first half of last season? Boston was like 500. Like they weren't that good the first half of last season, and they just took off.
We were talking about
point.
blowing it up and everything.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Now they have a 714 win percentage in the NBA.
Wild.
They're very good. 76ers are 31-16. So are the Bucks, 31-17. And those are the 2 and 3 seeds. And then the Nets are 29-18. The Cavs are 29-20. And that's who we would play in the first round. I said this a long time.
I hate that.
You want to be in the top 3 seeds, right? Like that's where you want to be in the East. You do not want to play Kevin Durant in the first round without home court right now. That's where you're at.
Yep.
And then you fall into the 6th seed. That's where the Heat are. You're only 2 games in front of them. And then we're talking about playing territory, right? 7, 8, 9, and 10. And 7 and 8. And that's a play-in game, right?
Yeah, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Yep.
Yep. So, I mean, like 26 wins. The Knicks are right there. So,
yeah.
You don't have a lot of time to figure things out. And if Donovan's out for a little while, this could be a little bit more difficult when it comes to seeding because we really need to get back into the top 3 seeds, right?
Yeah.
If you're talking about wanting to at least win a series.
Right. In our upcoming schedule we have 2 away games in a row, Rockets and Thunder. Rockets are the worst team in the West, so like we need to win that game for sure. Thunder, they're around 500. They can be scrappy, so it would be good to take care of business there. And then we have a tough stretch at home, Clippers, Heat, and Grizzlies. And I feel like these are all teams that can definitely give us problems. And, we do play our best basketball at home, but we need to be able to make that happen, especially in those 3 games. The Heat, especially, I think, with them being right on our tail in the East, that would be a nice one to get right now.
Yeah. I think you need to get two of those 3, right? Because one, you just can't afford to fall back here, right? You need to, I would say, between now in the All-Star break, you probably want to finish at least 4 or 5 games above 500 in just that stretch. So you need to get those in a combo. The problem is, like, if Donovan Mitchell's not there, it's very hard to beat Memphis in Miami, right? If Donovan Mitchell's not there, it's very hard to beat New Orleans.
Except we almost beat Memphis on the road without Donovan Mitchell. So, maybe the home will just it'll give it to us.
It's a national TV game too. It's on TNT. So we'll see. We'll see here. It is a tough stretch. This is this is, it's getting sweaty palms time right now, right? Like this is the stretch where it's going to get a little sweaty, right? Where we're going to figure out where this team is going to land. If they pull it out, right, and figure out some of their bench problems, because as much as I've came and complained about their bench problems, we are a handful of good Kevin Love games and good Ricky Rubio games away from saying, okay, yeah, we're fine.
Right, right. That's all it takes. That's all it takes.
So hopefully those two play better, right? And the idea was that they were going to play better with each other. Maybe it's taking some time to get back to that chemistry, but something needs to shake, right? Karras is going to be Karras. Like I'm not going to expect Karras to become a different person. Yeah. He's going to be Karras LeVert. He's going to give you good games. He's going to give you bad games. He's going to give you bad games that are actually kind of decent and good games that are actually kind of bad. Yeah. Like this is just what he does. So we just have to live with it. But Kevin and Ricky have to be more consistent for this team to be successful because they're really who this bench is going to run off of. And Ricky, I'm giving him a pass because he's been fine and he's just came back from injury. But Kevin's really got to figure it out because last year, hey, if Kevin wasn't working, we could throw Laurie in there, whatever it was. It's not a big deal. This year, Kevin, you need to have it together, man. Like we're kind of relying on you to be part of this bench. So that's my thoughts about this week of Cavs basketball. Anything you got left to add?
No, I feel like, this was one of the only times we've recorded after a loss, which I know, the comment section's always like, you guys only record when things are good. So we had some bad stuff to say today, which, that's going to happen sometimes. We've had good luck up until now with our recording timing, but, here we are. It's January basketball, almost February, hoping they turn things around. And my goal for this team is still for us to win a playoff series. Like that's what I said going into it. I still want that to happen. And would really like us to finish out the regular season strong and move up in those standings in order for that to be the case.
Definitely. If you want to hear more from Ab, make sure you check her out on Twitter at Abby_Mueller_. Also check her out. Her podcast is Girl from Cleveland. It's everywhere where podcasts are formed. Even if you want to download an MP3 and
MP3
throw it on your phone through a USB cable. Maybe
I think we had a couple comments about that. They were like MP3. Okay, guys.
I guess nobody uses MP3s anymore. It's been a while since I've used MP3s, but I wasn't ready for that to be the CD player or the what was old, like what that's like tape. Like when we were kids, like tape, cassette tape was like, oh, that's old. Now MP3 is that level of old. Yep. I mean, I couldn't imagine. Oh wow. LeBron's about to retire. It's
I know. I can't handle it.
The LeBron retirement season. That will be.
I'm gonna be emotional.
He's gonna milk it so badly too. Oh yeah, it's gonna be like they're gonna find a way. Either he retires as a Cavalier in Cleveland, or his last game is in Cleveland, but it's going to be dramatic. It's going to be the most, he is going to, like Kobe put up like 50 in his last game. LeBron will try to put up 70. Like I am confident that LeBron will try to put up 70. He will put up.
Sounds so great.
Or he'll try to do something like he's LeBron. So he'll put up like 31 and 10 and call it 3-1. You know what I mean? Like,
it'll have some correlation. I'm already looking forward to the Instagram post after where he's like hashtag but I'm not a scorer, hashtag the kid from back. He's got it all laid out.
30 he's gonna put a 36 he's gonna put a 33 11 and 16. That's what he's gonna do.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Mark it down. Write that down, people, and check in however many years until LeBron retires.
When LeBron retires, he's going to put up that stat line and be like, see? And it's going to be in Cleveland, and we're probably going to lose that game. And like knowing us, it might cost us something too.
Yeah, right. It would be important. Here's the thing. I need LeBron to play basketball forever. Like I like can't picture him retiring or a world without him in the league. So I'm just accepting that he's just gonna keep playing forever.
I mean, like it's gonna happen. They're gonna start trotting LeBron out there like they trot Magic Johnson out there, just like say, hey, remember Magic Johnson? And then we gonna be the old people like, yeah, I remember him. That's gonna be us with LeBron in like 20 years. They're gonna trot out LeBron like, look, when LeBron was playing, it changed the league. He went to 8 straight NBA finals. And they're gonna be like, okay.
Yeah, the kids won't get it. They won't get it like we do, but it was beautiful.
You know all the disrespectful stuff we say about Jordan? Yeah. All the disrespect they're gonna be like, yeah, you dropped Victor Wembanyama in the East in 2010. He ain't gonna know what to do with that. You know what I mean?
And I'm like, you know what? You're right, but it's different eras, so
you can't compare different eras. LeBron played in a more difficult era. We're gonna be
like, the physicality was different.
LeBron will be the marker of our age for us as sports fans. So
I'll take that. I'll take it.
You know what I mean? That will be our guy. But I want to thank everybody for watching. Y'all have a great day. Have a good night.